Hey folks, this is James, and this is video number 2 in our new series about real-world iPad workflows. In this video, I'll take you through my iPad workflow for designing a 1,700 square foot, 3-bedroom, second home in an idyllic Vermont setting. So get out your iPads, download the free starter kit of draw-to-scale tools I use in this video, and get ready to learn a real-world iPad workflow for designing an affordable and design-forward home, all on an iPad. This was a commission for a second home from a couple with 3 children that had property in the Lake Champlain region of Vermont, and they were on the side of a hill near Mount Philo with this incredible view of the lake beyond. And in terms of their program, they obviously wanted a house in the woods, and you're seeing the images I began to collect for the image board, and a large living room, kind of a 2-story loft reminiscent of their New York City loft, and dining room and kitchen all combined together with a huge kitchen island where they could gather around with friends and family. There were going to be 3 bedrooms, 1 primary bedroom, and then 2 bedrooms to split amongst their children. And then my favorite part of the program, they loved their roof deck in New York City, and they would go up there and spend hours barbecuing and just looking out over the city with their kids. So all of these images I've shown you became the first batch of images that I put into the mood board for this house. And I wanted that mood board to be big enough to show at meetings in person, so I specified that it be on an 18 by 24 sheet at 300 dpi so the images would have enough resolution. I also wanted this couple or this young family to be able to take that mood board home and have those images kind of percolate, work on their brains as they were considering the options in between meetings. Now, in terms of starting the design for our first meeting, I've always been one to sketch in my sketchbook, whether I had a real project or not. And Procreate is the sketchbook for the 21st century. You've heard me call it that before. And one of the main reasons I call it that is because you can take a freehand sketch and start to give it some scale and give it some straighter lines and then give it color. And that sketch can be transformed way beyond at least what I was always doing as a paper sketchbook. So that's an arrow in my creative quiver. But another arrow is my long bike rides that I love taking around Manhattan. It's where I get a lot of ideas and I get a chance to think. And I've always noticed during these bike rides these amazing plywood construction walls, and wondered how they might fit into an idea about more economical construction. And I think I'm not the only one. Obviously, Herzog and de Meuron have thought about it, as in this project here, and many people before them. So I wanted to go into this project thinking about economy right off the bat. And that translated into an attitude towards using off-the-shelf components, using structural members in 2-foot increments, using full sheets of plywood if possible, or at least half sheets of plywood, and how that might radically control costs and keep the client happy and keep the contractor happy. So if I'm honest, the 2 things that were really on my mind as I began sketching were this idea of regular construction, off-the-shelf products, and how that might control costs, and also this idea of how was I going to capture this roof deck inside this structure, given the need to be waterproof and worry-free when the clients weren't there, since it was a second home. But also, how was this roof deck going to incorporate and make kind of an exciting structure that I was proud of as well as the designer? So as I began fooling around in plan with that sketchbook for the 21st century, here you can see the roof plan in the second floor. And at first I thought maybe a garage is the only thing that can safely go under that. And I looked at that in elevation, and maybe that created an idea about a 2-part house that had more privacy for the parents on one side. But that didn't quite ring true, so often you go off to the margins and you make quick little sketches. And this one, I think I just got lucky because I realized that I could have a skylight coming down through that roof terrace that created a big industrial skylight over the kitchen island. And then that also lent itself, the regularity of this whole design began to lend itself very nicely to this sort of panelization by plywood, using the same module for the windows, for the plywood. But as all you architects and designers know, there's a danger that's lying in wait for you if you try to overly standardize or overly panelize things. You don't want them to get boring. So these studies here were ways that I could take that idea of a standardized system and maybe make it a little more interesting. You can see the basic 4-foot dimension, vertical dimension of the plywood is intact here. And I'm trying to stagger those joints horizontally and express the floor thickness and the roof structure thickness. And I'm trying to express those joints with a metal trim piece maybe that separates the plywood and helps waterproof the whole wall. And again, Procreate making it so simple to do these quick studies. And it also makes it possible to track your hours. So if you go into the Actions menu and Canvas Information and tap Statistics, you can see that this whole drawing, I worked on it over a couple of days. It took me about 12 hours to this point, and that's very helpful when it comes time to billing, as I'm sure you can all relate to. But the thing is, I'm getting a lot done in that 12 hours, and I'm actually drafting things up to scale here after the initial freehand sketch. I'm using Procreate's Drawing Assist features and the scale tools that we've created to make sure this is to scale and actually buildable. I'm calculating areas because I have a pretty good grip on the scale of the house through using those tools. You notice that the colors are constantly changing in the background because I'm turning this into a presentation board as I work at it. I'm also using the 8th scale FF&E furniture templates that come with my digital tools to test the design as I go, because I'm just going to turn these early thoughts into something very useful in that first meeting. And again, here comes more actual furniture being used, and they really do make you accountable for your designs. They test your ideas, and this is something we never learn in architecture school, or at least I did not learn in architecture school. I thought that architectural design ended once the sheetrock was in and once the standard builder trim was around the windows and doors. But in truth, the interior arrangement of furniture and the two-dimensional vignettes of each wall are really the direct day-to-day experience of the phenomenon of architecture, and not so much the windows and the beams. All those are bringing light to serve these people's lives inside this house. So of course they want to be innovative and progressive, but furniture is just such a critical part of the totality of architecture. And in a similar way to testing the design with furniture, I'm going to test it by kind of experience now. I like to do this sort of intermediate stage where I create kind of a freehand axonometric drawing that sort of inventories everything, every design decision to date. So you can see me laying out the furniture. I'm laying out the rooms and double checking that they work with the rhythm of the day, with the arc of the sun across from east to west. And I get to that end, and the bedrooms look like they're going to pose a problem. I haven't determined a final dimension. The 18 or 16 feet seem too short, so now I'm double checking, and it's still tight. But, I'm a believer that bedrooms don't have to be as big as everybody thinks they have to be, especially in a second home. I don't know if you remember all of the mid-century designs, and you would see these men and women coming out of Harvard and designing second homes for people in the woods up in Connecticut. And the children's rooms were always tiny because no one really expected them to stay in their rooms all day. You went out and you played in a kind of a family room situation. So I'm testing this children's room bedroom size and making it as small as possible because I really want to keep costs down, and I think I can convince them that that will be a worthy cause and that maybe these bedrooms aren't critical, especially if there's sacrifice involved with the rest of the house. So then I'm periodically doing area calculations to see if we're on schedule for being the smallest house possible that's still beautiful to live in, and it's looking pretty good. I mean, we're at under 2,000 square feet when you include the second floor. Actually, a lot less than that, maybe even 1,600, 1,700. So that leads to the approval or the green light of the next phase, at least in my mind. And now I'm going to take that freehand design and I am going to hardline draft it. I'm going to bring back the scale, bring back the grid templates that I use, and just give it one more rigorous test to see if everything fits. And remember, none of these pixel-based apps are actually going to be able to export a DXF file or a DWG file. So we are truly in concept design where we want to come up with the dimensions in our minds. We want to come up with our dimensions that make sense, but they're going to be manual dimensions, and we're not going to be able to export these files, but that's what makes sure we stay loose. So again, both Morpholio and Procreate, pixel-based apps, so you're not going to be able to export DXF or DWG files, but you're going to be able to stay as loose as possible, as far as possible into the design process. And if you had any doubts, well, here are the floor plans and the section drafted up in this style. Very precise, very old school in a sense, how we used to do it before we manually transferred things over to AutoCAD. And now I'm going to bring back those templates, and these are all working at scale. So these floor plans now are finally at 1/8 scale on an 11 by 17 by 300 DPI sheet. And that means that the FF&E templates are automatically the right size. So I bring in the template, I grab hold of just the piece that I want using the selection tool in rectangular mode, and then I use the move and transform tool to put it into position. And I'm going to go through and create the final presentation plan this way. I don't want to show you the whole thing, but you get the idea that I'm going room by room and piece of furniture by piece of furniture. And even within this template, once you select an item, you can then actually copy a portion of that item and then copy it over, so you can make these kinds of furniture groupings very quickly without going back to the master template. So this phase of two-dimensional concept design is now done, and now I want to test the idea with the equivalent of a cardboard model in SketchUp for iPad. And to do that, we will close out this file in Procreate and send it to our iCloud drive, then import it into SketchUp for iPad and build that paper model we're talking about, but you will have to wait for the next video to see that. But in the meantime, to learn more about any of the tips and techniques you saw in this video, check out all of the links in the description below. To see the next video in this series where we build that SketchUp model, check out this link here. And I will see you in the next video.